Hello students, this video is for chapter 2 part 1 history. The chapter name is history when, where and how. So in this video we are going to learn about the time frame under study, and in that we have two subtopics BC and AD. Next we have the geographical framework. Under this we have four subtopics: the Great Himalayas and mountainous regions, river valleys, the desert area and the Deccan Plateau. So we'll learn about them one by one. In history we have dates, years, decades, centuries, etc. and the events are recognized according to this. Like if someone asks you your birthday, you will tell the date, month and year. So you recognize your birthday by date, month and year. The same way other activities in the history also recognized by date, years, decades and sometimes centuries also. Like example we have 273 BC or AD 711. Like this we have specific dates. Now these dates are counted from the assumed date of birth of Jesus Christ, who was the founder of Christianity. Now how we count these dates from his date of birth? That we'll know further. So here we have BC or BCE. So BC stands for before Christ. All the dates before the birth of Christ are expressed in BC and they are counted backwards. Now BCE stands for before Common Era. BCE is also used in place of BC. Here we have AD or CE. So AD stands for two Latin words Anno Domini. It means in the year of Lord, that is Christ. All dates or year after the birth of Jesus Christ are expressed in AD. These years are counted forward. Sometimes BP, that is before present, is also used to denote past events. For example, 2011 can also be written as AD 2011. That is 2011 years after the birth of Jesus Christ. The same way, if we say 273 BC, that means it is 270 years before the birth of Christ. So the point is birth of Christ, and BC goes before the birth of Christ and AD is Anno Domini. That means it is the year which is after the birth of Christ. Here we will learn about how we can find out the difference between two dates. So first condition we can see, to find out the difference between two dates that are either both in BC or both in AD, we subtract the smaller date from the bigger one. That means if both the dates are in BC, then the smaller date will be subtracted from the bigger one, and the same will be with AD. If both the dates are in AD, then also will subtract the smaller date from the bigger date. We have an example here. the time difference between 2000 BC and 500 BC. So that will be 2000 BC minus 500 BC, and that will be 1500 years. And similarly, it will be in AD. Now we have second condition, and here we have to find out the difference of two dates where one is in BC and the other is in AD. And in this condition, we have to add the two dates. Like we have 500 BC and AD 1500. So here we can add 500 years plus 1500 years, and that can be 2000 years. So if both dates are in same pattern, that means BC or in AD, we will subtract. But if the dates are in different patterns, that means one is in BC and the other is in AD, then we have to add the dates. See, here we have the pictures of timeline, and through this you can understand the pattern of the timeline. So we have Christ, first picture, go through the first picture. We have Christ is born here in between on the 0 point. The Christ is born, that is the assumed year of the birth of Christ. Before that we have BC, 100, 200, 300, 400. So it will go backward and it is BC. And if we'll move forward, we have AD. In the rest of the pictures also you can see. So downwards, go to the below picture. Here you can see BC or BCE and AD and CE terms. So BC is before Christ, BCE is before Common Era. Then you have AD, Anno Domini, CE, Common Era. And also we have BP, before present. So here we have some of the terms of date. Here we will discuss about the advantages. So the term BC and AD are mentioned to denote the time of happening of a particular event. Like you have a date, month and year to denote the time of your birth. The same way, the other events are also recognized through the time. Now they also indicate the historical significance of events and activities. In India, we began to use this term about 200 years ago with the influence of the Britishers. When Britishers came, then we started to use this term to keep the record of the date. But earlier we calculated dates according to Vikram Samvat. Next topic is the geographical framework. How geography influenced the history of a place. So we'll learn about that here. The history of a place is greatly influenced by its geography. The area where the environment is favorable are densely populated, and their culture is affected by outside influences or foreign travelers. On the other hand, the area with unfavorable environment are sparsely populated, and their culture is not much affected by outside influences. For example, the area which has all the things required for survival of life will be densely populated. There we can see more population. Like we can take the example of Delhi, as Delhi provides job for people, and it provides the job for almost every type of people, the skilled people and the people who are not having any specific skill. They can also go there and work as a labor and they can survive. So you can see that these metro cities which can provide job, medical facilities, education to person are very populated these days. But if you will go to Ladakh area, that is a mountainous area, mountainous region, and that region is not having the favorable condition for life. The condition is harsh for people. So that area is having less population, or that is sparsely populated. So like this you can understand the area which has the favorable condition, all the things to support the life system, that will be having more population. But the area which has harsh condition for the survival of people will have less population. Here we have 4 pictures, and first 2 pictures you can see that they are densely populated, they are having more population. You can see many of the buildings, vehicles, and it is very congested, as the pictures are of big cities which have all the essential things for the survival of life, like education, job, and health facilities and other facilities. But if you will see the picture which is below, here you can see very less population, as these areas are not having the favorable condition, favorable climate. The climate is very harsh. Also the other things for the support of life is not there, and thus these areas are sparsely populated and having less population. Here we have the topic, what is Indian subcontinent? As we already know that we have 7 continents. So is this a new continent? No, it is not. Actually, the South Asia is often called a subcontinent, which includes the present countries of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka. So these 6 countries together form Indian subcontinent. It is also called subcontinent because although it is smaller than a continent, yet it is very large and separated from the rest of Asia by seas, hills, and mountains. So because of its large size, it is called Indian subcontinent. Here you can see the picture of the countries which are known as Indian subcontinent. So in the first picture, the purple area is Indian subcontinent. In this you have Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. In the second picture also you have the picture of subcontinent. Now we have the topic, the Great Himalayas and the mountainous regions. So the Indian subcontinent is bound by the Himalayas and its various ranges on the north, northeast, and northwest. The Himalaya region is very important for the Indian subcontinent because they save us from the cold wind of north. The rain-laden winds of Indian Ocean cannot pass over the Himalayas. So they are compelled to shed their moisture here in the subcontinent. As the result, this subcontinent has got a hot wet climate and endless growing season. These mountains act as a natural barrier between Indian and Central Asia. The passes in these mountains have acted as routes for contact since ancient time. So you can see the importance of the Great Himalayas. Here we have the map of India and we can see where the Great Himalayas lies, and you can see in the first picture the green portion is the higher Himalaya. After that the yellow portion is the lesser Himalaya, and the last one is Shivalik. So it is coming from high to low. Now the Himalaya is divided into three parts. First is the Greater Himalaya or the Himadri. After that we have Lesser Himalaya or Himachal, and then we have Shivalik. So these are the three parts, and you can see that in the picture also. Next we have river valleys. The valleys of three big rivers, the Indus, the Ganga and the Brahmaputra, form the heart of the Indian subcontinent. The valley of river Narmada is also very fertile. Now we have the reasons for settlement on the valley area. Now these river valleys have very fertile land and people could grow crops easily. This is the reason because people come and settle over here. Now these rivers could provide sufficient water for all their needs. Also these rivers served as an important means of transport. So as I already discussed that the area which gives the support system for life, the essential things for life, that area are more populated, densely populated. So if you see the river valley area, those are also densely populated. In the first picture you can see the Indus river, and in the second picture you can see the Brahmaputra river. Here also in the first picture we have Brahmaputra river, and in second picture we have the Narmada river. Here in the first picture we have Ganga and Brahmaputra both. In the second picture we have Narmada, Tapti, Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, all these rivers. So these areas are the fertile areas. Here we have the desert area. The desert area does not provide favorable conditions for habitation. Thus, they are sparsely populated. And the culture that developed here remained almost unaffected by outside influences. Example, the Thar desert that covers western Rajasthan and Sindh, which is now in Pakistan. These areas are sparsely populated. As we discussed, the area which are more populated or densely populated are having favorable condition. So the travelers, outsiders, they also went to that places, they go to that places. But the area which is sparsely populated, people are not living over there, the condition is very harsh. Obviously the people will not go there, the travelers will not go there because that place is not attracting the travelers. The area which is enriched, that area attracts the travelers. Here in the picture you can see the Thar desert, and some area of the Thar desert lies in Sindh, which is in Pakistan now, and also you have the picture of desert area. Next we have the Deccan Plateau. It lies below the Vindh and Satpura mountains. This area has great ranges along its eastern and western coast. Eastern coast is known as Eastern Ghat and the western coast is called Western Ghats. Now these ghats have narrow coastal stripes of land that are very fertile. Thus, they are also attracted settlers in large numbers. So, this area is more populated, densely populated. Here we have the picture and you can see the Deccan Plateau in the brown portion. We have Indian desert in the yellow portion. The green portion we have the northern plains, and this is also a densely populated area. Then we have blue area which is Himalayan range. In the west side we have Western Ghats. In the east side we have Eastern Ghats. So here in the map you can understand all the areas in India. I hope you all understood all the topics taught in this video. And here I have some quotes for you. Be humble, be teachable, and always keep learning. And change is the end result of all true learning. So by this video, what is the change which you have made?